Alright, still working on this notebook. I am really adding a lot of extra stuff to it. It's starting to look a little crazy, but again, if you've seen the previous video, you know that every day after midnight we get a different color scheme. Today it turned to teal. It's Wednesday, and so you can see the teal borders around the iframe. It's also around this image over here. It's also over the navigation here to the left. And what else? Inside of the external page right here, this particular page inside the iframe is intro.html. So this particular header and this little image, the border, anything bolded or italicized, and all of our links, all of those are going to change color after midnight, 7 days a week. Well, what else do I have? If I remember correctly, I have two sets of CSS style sheets. One CSS style sheet applies to this landing page, and then the other CSS style sheet applies to all of these external pages that come in here. So I can click Introduction, and my entire chapter on Introduction opens up in here with its own little individual sections right here. Now as I click through here, each of these buttons opens a div. So only the div portion is something that you scroll in here, not the whole page. And you also get an immediate OGG file that plays, that basically is nothing more than a reading of what you see in front of you. So alternatives to page admin, you see it's a short amount to read, and it's only a 55-second OGG file as well. Because these buttons up here immediately take us to a div and play this file down here, if you don't want to hear the file play, you just have to click this image. Clicking this image calls a function called stop it, and whatever was loaded into this audio player down here is immediately removed. So as you can see, 0:00 /0:00, there's nothing in it. It's empty. The source is set to 0, or basically an empty string. I'm not really going to get into the landing page. I just want to get into the simple external pages and the JavaScripts that make them work. I'm going to leave this landing page and just open up, I guess I don't have it, the intro.html. Pages, go down, intro.html, edit with Notepad, and let's run it in Firefox. Alright, so that's what it looks like outside of the landing page with all that other stuff. So again, I'm going to click this, and every time I click one of these buttons, look down here at the audio player and watch how the times change, because each OGG file is different for each little read section. Okay, so if you were looking down here at the bottom, you could tell by the changes in the final time for each audio file. You could see that it changed without hearing anything. You could see that time frame changed. Another thing that I've got, and this is not changing every day like the colors are, but for unordered list items, I'm using a variety of symbols here that Unicode, different web pages about Unicode showed me how I can use symbols to replace my list item discs or circles or squares or whatever an unordered list item little icon could be. So that made things a little bit interesting. And I'll show you that in the CSS that works for all of these external pages, the intro, page 1, page 2, page 3, all the way to, not page, but chapter, all the way to the last chapter of the book. As you can see, again, this is colorized, this is colorized, these bolds are colorized, all of these links are colorized. Here you can see that whether it's a bold or an italics, it's colorized. Anything different in here? No. These are table headers, and these are links. Those are all colorized. This is a pre-tag, which just allows me to type in code in a what you see is what you get format, so that any spaces that I use as I'm typing will output the way that I'm typing it. So pre-tags, th tags. What about here? Anything different here? I didn't do anything special with the ordered list items. I just kept them plain. They're not even taking the teal color or anything. They're just numbers. And that's about it. Okay, so really all of the external pages are based more or less like this. The same things are going to be colorized. What I haven't done and I'd like to do is, based on the day, have a different set of these symbols instead of having to manually change them. And I haven't done that yet, but if I do that in the future, I'll show it in another video how to do it. So quickly looking at intro.html, this is the web page code for this page. Doc type HTML, open HTML tag. There's the opening closing head tags. There's the title. You got a couple a meta char set and a meta name, link for the style sheet. You've got 4 links to external JavaScripts, and we will look at the external style sheet with all of these external JavaScripts. There's the end of the head. Our opening body tag calls 3 different functions. These functions belong in all of the external JavaScripts. But the body does call add listeners, daily news chapters page, and bubbling. We've got a div here with a class of radio that nests our audio player. Our audio player has the ID of XYZ. The source is set to nothing because the JavaScript puts in whatever we're going to fill it with, whatever sound or reading we want. It's going to go in there based on JavaScript or on-click events. We have a div ID of fixed buttons, and that holds all of our buttons. This is the first button right here. The first button says about on it, and then you've got another button that says code examples online, using PostgreSQL, installing PostgreSQL, working with page admin, and alternatives to page admin. So this div called fixed buttons holds all those. This is how you make one button, and therefore you'll know how to make all of them. Input class equals unselected, type equals button, value equals about, onClick equals window.scroll, parentheses 0, comma find pause, parentheses document.getElementById, DA. That works with this JavaScript called find pos, short for find position. And it's a very short function, but it's very nice because that's what allows me to hit any of these buttons and only pull up a div of information at a time, a single div of information, so that you don't have a huge lot of scrolling going on. You only have to scroll within the information within the div. And so that's one thing that clicking that does. The other thing that clicking this does, document.getElementById, parentheses and quotes xyd.source equals, it fills up our audio player with an OGG file. And because our audio player up here has controls and autoplay attributes set, when you fill it, it will automatically play this about.ogg audio file. When you go to the next button, the only thing that changes is the value of the face of the button, what you see on it, and what div ID they're pulling up to the top of the page, and what OGG file begins immediately playing. So that's the only thing that changes from button to button. And we have all these buttons until we get to the last button, which is alternatives to page admin right there. and then we have our ending div. So that's all of that, and we can just close that up. But before I go further down the page, I might as well go ahead and show you that quick find pause JavaScript, because it's really, really short, and it does apply to the buttons. So I'm going to close this up, and I'm going to go to findpause.js, and the name of the file is also the name of the function. So you don't have to do it that way. You can call the file, mind your own business.javascript, but the name of the function is what you're going to call out there. Function's name is findPos. It's got a single parameter obj, and the first line says var curtop equals -55. Then we have an if condition, if obj.offsetParent. Then in the parentheses there we have a do while loop, do curtop plus equals obj.offsetTop. Outside of the do we have a while that in parentheses has obj equals obj.offsetParent, semicolon. Then we have return, and then we have curtop in square brackets, semicolon. There's the closure of the if, and there's the closure of the function findPos. So that's how we pull up a little div at a time with our button. Very simple. Okay, now here's a function called stopit, and it can't get any simpler than that. The name of the file is stopit.js, and the name of the function is also stopit. Function stopit, nothing in the parentheses here. And in the curly braces, we just use our document.getElementById to target our audio player with the ID of XYZ and set its source to an empty string. So if it happens to be playing an OGG file and you want it to stop, then when you click that little image right here, it will immediately clear this out and stop it. Stop the playing of the audio file. Okay, so we're going to close that. Let's see, where did I stop at here? We looked at the fixed buttons. Here's that first section that gets pulled, the div with the ID of DA. When we click this about, it's pulling that div right up here to the top. That div has an H1 tag that has the word about, and next to the word about it's got an image. Image ID equals SPK, which is short for speaker, and the source is set to the path of the image you want to use for that. Takes me to tinyspeaker.ping. The alternate, if your image breaks or gets moved out of the path, you will see the words speaker image. And when you click on that image, you call that function that I just read to you, stop it. Now let's mess up the path to the tinyspeaker.ping by just throwing a Z in there somewhere. So when that happens and I refresh the page, you see you have the words speaker image to let you know what was supposed to be there. You know, something happened and something was broken, and so that's what it's supposed to be, a speaker image. Okay, so that's really what the alt is there for. Alternative words, I guess. Alternative text for the image. Okay, so there's the end of the H1 header tag. So the header tag has, the header is the word and the image. That's what I'm using as a header there. After that we have an H2, which is another header, and inside of these tags we have the words Practical Sequel, A Beginner's Guide to Storytelling with Data, No Starch Press, San Francisco. And the opening of that H2 tag, we give it an ID of ID1. We go down a little bit and we have a paragraph. Inside of the paragraph we have the word author bolded by using the opening B before it and the closing B after it. We gave the bold tag an ID of ID2. You go down a little further and we have another paragraph, but this time we gave the paragraph tag an ID, and it's got ID equal to ID3. There's another bold pair that bolds technical reviewer, and then there's a bunch of stuff right here that belong to the paragraph, just like there's a bunch of stuff here that belongs to this paragraph above it. Now the reason I'm showing you these IDs, ID1 for the H2 tag, ID2 for the bold tag, and ID3 for the paragraph tag is because we're going to use a JavaScript function that searches for clicks on the page. So here we've got a page. If I click any old thing, it won't necessarily do anything special. But if I set it up in my JavaScript, if I set up event listeners to listen for certain clicks that have matching IDs, then I can cause some stuff to happen. And that's where we're going to look at next. And that is event bubbling. So event bubbling.javascript is going to deal with ID1, ID2, and ID3, and it's going to do stuff based on clicking on it. So here we have the function name bubbling. The file is eventbubbling.js. I could have called this function event bubbling as well. You don't have to have the name of the function and the name of the file identical, but the closer that you have to it makes it easier for recall purposes. But anyway, function bubbling, nothing in the parentheses, and in the opening curly brace, we don't worry about all this stuff that's grayed out because it's all commented out, it's not executing. But we do have lit up document.addEventListener. In parentheses, we're listening for the click event, and we're going to do an automatic function right now. Function E, open that curly brace up, and then do this statement, var ID equals e.target.id, semicolon. Then we're going to do a nice switch statement that is going to take the value of ID, which means whatever it is you click on, if it's going to look for an ID. Okay, whatever it is you click on is going to go into this ID. Then we are going to compare whatever the value of ID is to these case statements here. Now, if you click on something and there's no ID given to it that would match any of these things, then nothing will happen. Nothing will happen at all. But if you happen to click on something that has ID1, that means that you have matched ID1 to what you clicked on. That means you clicked on this particular thing. So you will do this. Alert ID, document.getElementById, parentheses and quotes, intro.style.color equals orange, document.getElementById, parentheses intro.innerHTML equals hello there, how are you tonight? xyz.source equals, and we have it filling up a path to an MP3 file called sunday.mp3, and then we use xyz.play to play it, then we break out of that. This is only going to look for one element at a time and do some stuff if it finds that yes indeed you clicked on something that we gave special instructions for if you click it. So if you click ID1, that's what's going to happen. So let's go on ahead and click it. This is ID1. I'm going to click it. It shows me the name of the ID, which is in fact ID1. Click OK. And this thing way down here happens to have the ID of intro. And so it changed the color from teal to orange. And it also changed the inner HTML of this element to hello, how are you tonight? Now you click on, you also hear an MP3 that just says Sunday, and you see that it was 1 second long and it passed instantly. Now if I click on hello, how are you tonight, its original MP3 or OGG file is going to open based on this items click, what this is linking to. So if I click this, it's 11 minutes and 31 seconds. And I could make it stop by clicking this. It instantly empties this out. Okay, so that's what happens if you click this, since I gave all of this ID1. Now, what about if I click in this paragraph? Nothing's happening. Nothing's happening because we didn't give this paragraph tag an ID to look for with any instructions, but we did give the B tag that's bolding author the ID of 2, ID2 I believe. So let's click on it. There's ID2 because we clicked in the right place. Click OK, and this quickly said Monday, so it played that MP3. It changed the color to red, and it also changed the inner HTML from what it was before to the word hello. Now we get down to this part. Technical Reviewer does not have any ID associated with it at all. So I can click on Technical Reviewer all day long. But the paragraph that all the rest of this stuff belongs to, that paragraph did get the ID 3. So I can click anywhere in this paragraph and I will see ID 3 pop up, and if I click OK, it is going to change everything in the paragraph. It's going to change it to red. It's going to change all of the inner HTML, and even Technical Reviewer will be changed because Technical Reviewer is in fact nested inside of the p tags. So all you got is goodbye. And I heard Tuesday MP3 play for a quick second. So I basically showed you how to create event listeners on an entire document, and based on a switch case statement, if you click on the right element with the right ID that you create a case for, you can do some stuff based on what you click on. Okay, so that's my event bubbling.javascript, and again, it only does one of these at a time because you're only clicking one thing at a time, and after it finishes whichever one it matched, it breaks right out of the switch statement, and then you have your ending curly brace, ending parentheses, and semicolon to end that whole event listener portion, and then you have the closing curly brace for the event bubbling function. Not the event, but the bubbling function period that starts at the very, very beginning. Okay, so we're done with event bubbling.javascript. Exclusively one styled. We'll go over that after we do day of week. Day of week is very simple. We create a bunch of variables and we create them globally, so it's outside of the function daily news. The function is called daily news. It's kind of different than day of week.javascript, the name of the file, but they both have day in it. So I mean, maybe I could have called this function day of week, but I called it daily news instead. Maybe I should have called this daily news.javascript. I don't know. But anyway, like again, I'm just reiterating the fact that the name of the file and the name of the function don't have to be identical. Here our switch expression is new date.getDay, and today is Wednesday, so case 0 does not match this expression. That gets ignored. It also doesn't match 1. This is actually 3, so it's going to go all the way down until it says 3 because today is Wednesday. We are going to take the variable day and set it to the string Wednesday, and then picture 654321. All of these pictures are going to be pointing to different pictures within our system. We have a couple of colors. One Z'd out, so it's not executing, but colors with a Z is set to teal, and that is the colors that you see right now. It's this like bluish green color. It's teal. We have a variable called shadows that I'm not technically using, so I have that Z'd out. Videos is set to an MP4 file in the system, and the variable iframe colors is set to white. Then we break out, and we don't even bother looking at any of the other cases. We just break out. We found our match and we break out. So we break out of the switch, and then we break out of daily news. So we're done with this day of the week file, but remember the name of the function that we created. It's called daily news because we're going to call that from another function. See, we're creating the function here, but we're not actually calling it. It's not until somebody calls daily news that all this stuff physically happens and gets put into memory. So we're going to close this day of the week, and let's look at changes, chapters, page, daily changes. This is really an awful name for a file, and it's also an awful name for a function, so I apologize for that, but it's already, I can make the change another time. But in any event, daily news chapters page is called when the page is first created, when it's open. Intro.html, if we go to the body onload tag, Add listeners is called right away. Daily news chapters page is called, and bubbling is called. As soon as that page opens, those three are called. But then when this daily news chapters page is called, the first thing it does is call daily news. So all of those variables that we gave pictures and colors and MP3 files and MP4 files values, we're now going to use them in here based on this. This figures out what day of the week it is and sets values to variables, and then we use them. So document.getElementById, parentheses and quotes, SPK, .style.border color is colors. Today's colors value is teal. So that means that this little speaker is going to have a teal border today. Tomorrow it'll be different. The next three right here apply to our audio player because our audio player has the ID of XYZ. So document.getElementById XYZ.style.border color equals colors, background color equals colors, and color equals colors. So I changed three different styles, the border color, the background color, and the color for our audio player. Then I use document.querySelectorAll to do all of the H1 tags, all of the image tags, all of the pre-tags, all of the B tags, all of the I tags, all of the A links, all of the TH headers. All of those get a similar pattern, and the pattern is this. The pattern is this. You use document.querySelectorAll, and then in parentheses and double quotes you say what the name of the tag is. In this case it's an H1 tag. Then you're going to give it a variable name that represents the group of those tags. So the group of H1s I'm going to name headers because they happen to be headers. And putting this Z on the end is just a strange little way for me to know that this is my naming convention. We don't have any keywords with a Z at the end of them as far as I know, so I don't have to worry about creating any variables with important keyword names. So the group of H1s is going to be represented by headers, and then we're going to do a for loop for var I equals 0, I less than headers.length, I plus plus. On the inside of the for loop, we're going to create a variable that stands for each single one. So here I'm going to create header, var header for each one equals headers index I. Then I'm going to use that singular variable name header to stylize it. So header.style.color equals colors. So every H1 tag is going to give every H1 header whatever the color of the day is, which today is teal. We're going to do this exact same thing for all these other things. So for all of my images, which I only have one, but if I had multiple images, I'd use querySelectorAll for the image, and then I would give it some plural variable, in this case images with a Z. Then I do the same for loop, var I equals 0, I less than images.length, I plus plus. Inside of the loop I'd create a singular variable to represent. Var image equals images index I, image.style.border color equals colors. Just keep doing that for whatever particular elements you want to colorize. It's the exact same pattern. The only thing that's different is what tags you're using and what variables you're using. Okay, so that's everything for chapters page daily changes.javascript. After you do this last for loop, here's the end of the functions curly brace. So we're done with that. Okay, exclusively one styled, we'll do that after we look at the CSS file. So here's a quick wrap up of the CSS. There's some styles for the body and the HTML, styles for the body only, styles for HR. These are important because some of these are important because, as you can see in the comments, needed for horizontal scroll, needed for horizontal scroll, needed for horizontal scrolls, blah, blah, blah. So you want to make sure that you get the ones that say needed. Otherwise, you can do what you want with the style. This particular div holds our buttons up here and allows us to scroll when we have too many buttons to fit the page. After that, we have input type equals button dot selected. Now we are talking about the default CSS for these buttons and what happens when you click on one. So selected is what happens when you click on it. You can give it a background image of a linear gradient, or right now we just have a background color that changes to a darker gray. You've got the display set to inline block, note, 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 needed for horizontal scroll. You've got a border, a couple different color possibilities, one which is Z'd out, a padding, and a margin. And then here is our unselected, which is the default, because all of them are given the class of unselected right there in the page. Right in here. Class equals unselected, and so on and so forth. But the padding, the margin, the display, and the border are all there for the input type equals button dot unselected. Last one, this is pertaining to a class that I created for the very last div that we pull up. We pull up all these divs, but when we get to the very last one, I had to give it a special style so that this would pull up in the same manner that all the other ones were pulling up. So I had to give it a bit of a margin bottom. This represents the styles for all the divs. Again, all the divs are holding a little snippet of information about a subtopic. So each time we click one of these buttons, a little div will pop up, just a little div instead of the whole page. And these are the styles that represent the divs. Okay, we have our audio tag nested inside of a div with a class of radio, and this is how we stylize that. For all of our H1 tags, we have a set of styles. For our image with the ID of speaker, there's our styles for that. Then I have a style called class make it fit, and that's for any images that I took with my cell phone, images of pictures in the book that I didn't want to try to replicate making an HTML table. So I wanted to make them all have the same width and margin, because once I cropped them, they all had different dimensions. So this way they all at least look similar as far as the width on the page. They don't look similar because some of them have really, you're a lot closer up to the text than some of the other ones, but I wanted them to carry 80% of the page. They might have a different height, but I wanted them all to have the same percent of width. Here, these are our styles for all of our A-links. Styles for a table, any table. Styles for our table header and table data cell. I don't believe I used this class whole width for anything, but there it is. For all of my list items, I gave it all of them a margin bottom. For my pre-tags, so that I have a what you see is what you get output, I have white space set to pre-wrap, and then all the rest of these styles. For border, I mean not border, but bold and italic tags, color is set to black. For TDs, which is table data cells, I gave the white space a setting of pre-wrap. So then my table data cells are kind of like pre-tags. It preserves the white spaces for the output. Now this is fun because instead of our unordered list items having only a bullet, I can give it different symbols. So instead of the list style type being set to a circle, a disk, or a square, as you see I've Z'd that out so this doesn't even apply, I have list style type set to none. You can also set a color, but if you set a color in here, you're going to have not only the symbol colorized, but you'll also have the text next to it colorized. So if you want to keep that separate, don't set color in here. Only set color in here if you want the text and the symbol to be the same color. But the ULLI colon before lets us have some fun in colorizing just the dot or just the symbol. Some of these symbols are pre-colorized, and so setting a color doesn't do anything. And others will accept your color because it's like a design without being pre-colored. So here I have color set to red. So any symbols that don't have colors permanently attached to them, the symbol will be shown in red. You can also set your symbol color to black because you have a lot of different symbols that may look kind of weird if they're red. But I just want to show you this so that you see that the color stands out when it stands out and when it's not being adopted because the symbols have their own colorization. So after we deal with are we going to colorize anything in particular, then we have content. Now this is a bunch of them. You're not going to use all of these at once, but I wanted to show you the variety. There's tons and tons of Unicode symbols out there that you can use in this fashion. You can use these anywhere in your web page. It doesn't have to be for list items. I just thought it was an interesting technique to use as list items. After you figure out what content setting you want for your symbol, you can also set the font size, the padding, the position, and the top as you want your page to look. So there's the end of all of those styles. And all the rest of this is grayed out, so that doesn't even matter. It's not executing. Let's split the page. Let me find, there we go. And so currently I have clocks for my list items, my unordered list items. Now, I would like to turn my sound down because every time I click any of these up here, it starts automatically playing an OGG file, and I really don't want to listen to that right now. All right, so let's check out some of these other symbols. Best way for me to do this would be to start misspelling from the bottom. All of these are spelled correctly, but obviously you can only have one of these showing at a time, so it's going to flow from the top to the bottom, and the very last one that it shows is what you see right here. So if I misspell this one, then this one is going to be the one that shows. So 23F0 gives us the clocks. Misspell it. Now we're going to look at 1F355, which is pizza. Next one is some type of branch, smiley face, golf, hole in one, some kind of something or other, kind of cool. And you see that some things are pre-colorized and some things are picking up our red colorization. See, this is not this is pre-colorized. It's giving it to us in blue, no matter the fact that we asked for red. Same thing with our handicap symbol. Our music notes are giving us the color. And our crowns are colorized. That Sagittarius symbol is not colorized. I mean, it's pre-colorized. Smiley face, it's taking our color. Peace. Skull and crossbones. Now, this is a nice picture even when it's small, but if you change the font size to, I don't know, let's say 3.75 EM, that's almost 4 times what the normal font size would be. You get it much larger and you can see the image much better. So again, you don't have to use these for list items. You could put this symbol anywhere you want in your web page for any purpose. But that kind of looks awkward, doesn't it? That doesn't look very nice as far as list items go. So maybe I'll just set it to a flat 2 EM and see how that looks. So it's a little bit bigger, but yeah, it's okay. All right, going on to the next symbol. Misspell, and we got, what do we got? Fingers, pointing fingers. It's a little plant. Clover, which you might want to change your color to green if you're using some type of clover. And there's a baseball, pre-colored, soccer ball, pre-colored, church, pre-colored. That's taking up, what is that, a yin yang or something? I don't know what to call that, but it's picking up our red. There is a cute little umbrella, pre-colored. The @ symbol with our color. Some type of oriental thing. Don't know what it says. And that's just regular old dots. So what you can do is you can look up these Unicode characters and check out the links and see the different symbols that you can use. I don't know what I want to keep. Let's just undo that and see what we get. All right, I guess I'm going to stay with the wheelchair. So, what else do I want to show you? That's pretty much the end of my CSS. The exclusively one styled, that JavaScript is used so that every time I go from button to button, only the last button I clicked will have that special style of selected. The inner for loop removes the style. As I move from button to button, it removes the style from everything. Therefore, the last thing I click is the only thing that has the selected style. So here we have function add listeners, if window dot add event listener, var my list items equals document.querySelectorAll, parentheses, quotes, the class unselected. Here's a for loop that does basically what I showed you in another JavaScript for var I equals 0, I less than my list items dot length, I plus plus. And so we created a variable, a plural variable, to hold the group of items that have the class unselected. Then on the inside of the for loop, we create a singular variable to represent each one of them. So var list item equals my list items index I. After that, we use list item dot add event listener to listen for the click event, and then we have this function parentheses event that's going to do something right away. We've got another for loop that says for var I equals 0, as long as I is less than my list items dot length, I plus plus. And here's the inner loop where we're going to remove that style so that we only see the last clicked to have the selected. So var list item 2 equals my list items index I, list item 2 dot class list dot remove the class selected. And then there's the closure of the inner for loop. After that, we have this .classList.toggle parentheses the class selected. And then here we close up our event listener, and we close up the outer for loop, and we close up the if. And then way here at the bottom, we close the entire function. So that allows us to bounce around here and have a specialized style, but keep it only for the very last click that you've done instead of every single click that you do. Okay, so we're done with that. And I believe we've looked at all of that. So with that being said, I think I've covered everything that is kind of recent. Basically that switch statement that allows me to pick at certain things that I click on in here and then make something happen based on, didn't really matter what I clicked, as long as it matched a specific ID that I wanted to target, and put it in a switch case statement, which is easy to look at. All right, let's see if this will be done.